Behind the polished smiles and perfect harmonies of Nashville lies a world of passion, betrayal, and temptation. In an industry built on love songs and heartbreak, some women lived those lyrics more intensely than anyone else. From secret affairs to forbidden romances that rocked the country scene, these stories reveal the untold emotional chaos behind the stage lights. This is 12 female country stars whose love affairs shook Nashville. One Tammy Wynette, the queen torn between love and pain. Before the scandals, before the heartbreak, there was a young Virginia Wynette Pugh standing in front of a microphone in a small Alabama studio, dreaming of love songs that could touch hearts. By the late 1960s, she was no longer just a dreamer. She was Tammy Wynette, the first lady of country music. Her voice carried the ache of every broken heart in America, and her biggest hit, Stand By Your Man, became an anthem and an irony for the rest of her life. Tammy's success came fast, but so did her storms. She married 5 times, each union marked by intensity, passion, and pain. Her most famous and tragic love story was with fellow country legend George Jones. Together, they were country's royal couple, fiery, magnetic, and unpredictable. On stage, their chemistry was undeniable, but behind closed doors, their relationship was a whirlwind of drinking, arguments, and emotional chaos. Their duets like Golden Ring and We're Gonna Hold On were bittersweet reflections of their volatile marriage, love songs turned confessions. After their divorce, Tammy's personal life became even more turbulent. She entered new relationships that seemed to offer stability, but ended in heartbreak or controversy. The line between her private pain and public persona blurred completely. Even as her health deteriorated from years of illness and prescription drug use, she kept singing about love, perhaps because it was both her salvation and her curse. Nashville insiders whispered about her secret affairs and emotional dependence on men who often exploited her vulnerability. Yet, she remained graceful, always projecting the image of a woman loyal to love, no matter how cruel it had been to her. When Tammy Wynette died in 1998 at just 55, the industry mourned not only a legend, but a symbol of every country woman who had loved too deeply. Behind the rhinestones and the big hair was a fragile soul who turned her heartbreak into timeless music. Her life was a ballad of contradictions, strength wrapped in fragility, devotion scarred by betrayal. In the end, Tammy didn't just sing about standing by her man. She lived it, even when it broke her. Her story remains one of the most haunting reminders that behind every country love song, there's a real woman paying the price for passion. 2. Dolly Parton, the legend who loved beyond the spotlight. Dolly Parton has long been the glittering heart of country music, radiant, witty, and larger than life. But behind the sequins and the smiles, her personal life has always stirred quiet fascination. Married to the famously private Carl Dean since 1966, Dolly's marriage became one of Nashville's most mysterious unions. While she often described Carl as her anchor, the fact that he never appeared in public with her led to endless rumors. Some suggesting infidelity, others whispering that the marriage was more friendship than romance. Throughout the 1970s and 80s, Dolly's collaborations with male artists fueled speculation that her love life was far more complicated than the sweet Southern image she projected. Her partnership with Porter Wagoner was one of the most talked about in country history. Their chemistry on screen and on stage felt electric, intense, tender, and at times combative. Porter's open jealousy and obsession with her success led many to suspect an affair that transcended the professional. Dolly never confirmed it, but her farewell song, I Will Always Love You, later made immortal by Whitney Houston, was written for Wagoner, and it carried a kind of heartbreak that words alone couldn't hide. Later, she was linked to several Hollywood names, including Burt Reynolds, with whom she starred in The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. Their playful flirtation was undeniable, and tabloids painted them as the perfect Southern couple. Dolly, always coy, neither confirmed nor denied the gossip. Carl knows I flirt. That's just me, she once said, but he's the love of my life. Despite the rumors, Dolly's approach to love was never about scandal. It was about connection, freedom, and emotional honesty. She openly admitted that her life included a deep and lasting friendship that went too far, referring to a rumored emotional affair that nearly ended her marriage. Instead of shame, she turned it into art. Songs like Two Doors Down and It's All Wrong, But It's All Right captured the ache of secret longing and the price of desire in a way few others could. Dolly Parton's romantic life remains wrapped in mystery, a deliberate choice from a woman who has spent her life giving the world everything except her secrets. Behind the laughter and charm, she carries stories of temptation, loneliness, and love that couldn't be spoken aloud. In the end, Dolly didn't just master country music, she mastered the art of loving fiercely while protecting her heart from the spotlight. 3. Loretta Lynn, the coal miner's daughter who loved through fire. Loretta Lynn rose from poverty in Butcher Hollow, Kentucky, to become one of the most influential women in country music. Her songs gave a voice to every woman who had ever been betrayed, silenced, or underestimated. But behind her fiery lyrics and fearless attitude lay a lifetime of heartbreak, much of it rooted in her complicated, volatile marriage to Oliver Doolittle Lynn. Loretta married Doolittle when she was just 15, and he was nearly a decade older. The early years of their marriage were marked by struggle, poverty, and Doolittle's drinking and infidelity. He cheated repeatedly, yet Loretta stayed, not out of weakness, but out of loyalty and love twisted by dependency. That stormy relationship became the emotional foundation for many of her songs, from Don't Come Home a-Drinkin' with Lovin' on Your Mind, to You Ain't Woman Enough to Take My Man. Through music, she transformed personal humiliation into empowerment, showing women they had the right to fight back. With their voices, if not their fists. Behind closed doors, though, Loretta's life was a tug-of-war between devotion and disillusion. She once admitted in interviews that she and Doolittle fought hard and loved hard. He'd disappear for days, she'd throw things at him when he returned, and somehow they'd make up, only to repeat the cycle. It was a love story that burned bright but left scars. Nashville insiders whispered about brief flirtations she might have had in later years, emotional bonds with musicians who understood her pain better than her husband ever did. Loretta never acknowledged them publicly, but her later songs carried a new tone, not anger, but melancholy, as if mourning what could never be. Even as she became a pioneer for women in a male-dominated industry, Loretta carried her private battles quietly. Doolittle's death in 1996 left her devastated, despite everything they had endured. He wasn't a perfect man, she once said, but he was my man. That simple sentence captured the essence of Loretta Lynn's love life. Unconditional, destructive, but real in a way that defied judgment. Loretta didn't just sing about women standing by their men. She lived that fight every day. Her songs were confessionals, set to steel guitars, her heart both her weapon and her wound. In the story of country music's great love affairs, Loretta Lynn stands as the woman who turned her pain into power, proving that even the deepest heartbreak can still sing. 4. Tanya Tucker, the wild child who loved like a storm. When Tanya Tucker burst onto the country scene at just 13 with Delta Dawn, she seemed destined for stardom. But fame came fast, and so did the chaos. While other singers carefully guarded their reputations, Tanya lived her life like one of her own songs. Loud, passionate, and without apology. Her rise in the 1970s and 80s made her the rebellious darling of Nashville, but her love life turned her into its most controversial headline. Her most infamous romance was with country legend Glen Campbell, a love affair that consumed both of them. He was in his mid-40s. She was barely 20. The tabloids devoured every moment of their volatile relationship. They fought publicly, made up passionately, and fought again. Drugs, jealousy, and the pressure of fame turned what began as a fiery romance into something self-destructive. Tanya later described it as a love so strong it nearly killed us both. Their duets, including Dream Lover, became haunting echoes of that explosive connection. Beautiful, but doomed. After Campbell, Tanya's romantic reputation became as wild as her image. She was linked to a string of high-profile men, including Merle Haggard, Don Johnson, and Andy Gibb. Each relationship added fuel to her bad girl of country persona, a label she both despised and secretly used to her advantage. Nashville's conservative establishment criticized her, but Tanya refused to apologize. They said I was reckless, she once said. Maybe I was, but I was living. Her relationships often reflected the emotional wounds of a woman searching for something real in a world built on performance. Underneath the bravado and scandal was a deeply sensitive soul, a woman who felt love and loss more intensely than most. Her 2002 comeback album, Tanya, carried that maturity. Songs about heartbreak, forgiveness, and the cost of loving without boundaries. Even now, when fans look back on Tanya Tucker's story, they see more than just the scandal. They see survival. She outlasted her critics, reclaimed her voice, and turned chaos into legacy. The same passion that once destroyed her became her greatest strength. Tanya Tucker didn't just live through Nashville's wild years. She defined them. Every headline, every heartbreak, every song was proof of a woman who refused to let anyone else write her story. Her love life may have shocked Nashville, but her courage made sure it would never forget her. 5. Reba McEntire, the queen who lost control of her own fairy tale. Reba McEntire built her empire on strength, discipline, and control. From a small-town Oklahoma girl to one of the most successful female artists in country history, she was the definition of resilience. Every note she sang carried professionalism and pride, the image of a woman who had it all together. But behind that powerful persona was a private life riddled with emotional twists, betrayal, and a love story that crumbled in the spotlight. Reba's romance with Narvel Blackstock began as a professional partnership. He was her steel guitarist, then her manager, and eventually her husband. They were inseparable, the kind of duo fans envied, the power couple who conquered Nashville together. For 26 years, Narvel helped steer Reba's career, shaping her transition from singer to TV star to brand icon. But over time, cracks began to form in the foundation. Behind closed doors, the boundaries between business and love blurred until the woman who once controlled everything realized she was losing herself. When Narvel reportedly grew emotionally distant and later began a relationship with one of Reba's close associates, the betrayal hit her like a freight train. The divorce in 2015 shocked the country music world, not because relationships fail, but because Reba had built a career around being the strong one. Suddenly, the queen of stability was living her own heartbreak ballad. She later admitted, "The divorce wasn't my idea. I didn't want it in any shape or form." Fans and media speculated endlessly about what had gone wrong. Some suggested Narvel had felt overshadowed by her fame. Others whispered about long-term frustrations. Reba, however, chose dignity. She didn't name names or trade accusations. She did what she'd always done. She sang through the pain. Her album Love Somebody released the same year, with songs that sounded eerily autobiographical, raw, wounded, and reflective. In the years that followed, Reba found new happiness in an unexpected place, through friendship, faith, and eventually a new romance with actor Rex Linn. But she never forgot the lesson that love, even at its most glamorous, can unravel quietly beneath the surface. Reba McEntire's story isn't about scandal. It's about survival. A woman who gave her heart fully, lost it publicly, and came back stronger than ever. In the end, she didn't just stand by her man. She learned how to stand alone, and that made her more powerful than ever. 6. Faith Hill, the sweetheart who risked it all for love. Before she became part of country music's most famous couple, Faith Hill was the small-town Mississippi girl with the angelic voice and the kind of beauty that Nashville adored. She built her image as the all-American sweetheart, graceful, romantic, and devoted. But behind that wholesome image lies one of country's most daring love stories, one that began with a scandal and turned into a lifelong passion. When Faith joined Tim McGraw's Spontaneous Combustion Tour in 1996, both were on the rise. Young, beautiful, and already married or engaged to other people. Faith was set to marry her producer, Scott Hendricks, but sparks flew between her and Tim almost immediately. The chemistry was undeniable, visible even to fans during their duets on stage. Nashville buzzed with rumors of a forbidden attraction growing behind tour buses and backstage curtains. Faith tried to resist at first, aware of the moral and career risks. But the pull between them proved too powerful. By the end of the tour, she had broken off her engagement to Hendricks and married Tim McGraw just months later. It was a move that shocked Nashville. The good girl had chosen passion over propriety. For years, Faith and Tim faced criticism from insiders who saw their love as reckless. But time would prove them wrong. The two went on to build one of country's strongest dynasties, multiple hit duets, sold-out tours, and a family adored by millions. Yet, behind the picture-perfect image, there were struggles. Rumors of Tim's drinking and clashes over fame occasionally surfaced. painting a portrait of two strong personalities trying to protect their love from the world's eyes. Through it all, Faith's devotion never wavered. "Marriage isn't about perfection," she once said. "It's about holding on when it gets hard." Her story isn't one of scandal alone. It's about choosing real emotion in a world obsessed with image. Faith Hill risked her reputation for love, and in doing so, humanized herself to millions of fans who saw in her the courage to follow her heart. From forbidden attraction to lasting devotion, Faith and Tim's saga remains one of Nashville's most passionate love stories, proof that sometimes the sweetest voices come from the loudest risks. 7. Shania Twain, the woman who turned betrayal into strength. In the 1990s, Shania Twain wasn't just a country star. She was a revolution. With hits like "Man, I Feel Like a Woman" and "You're Still the One," she redefined what a female artist could be in Nashville. Bold, sexy, and unapologetically in control. But while the world saw confidence and glamour, behind the spotlight was a love story that would become one of the most shocking betrayals in country music history. Shania's marriage to producer Mutt Lange seemed like a fairy tale. He was the musical mastermind behind her biggest successes, helping her craft a sound that crossed genres and conquered the charts. Together, they built an empire. Millions of records sold, awards stacked high, and a love story that looked unbreakable. To the outside world, they were inseparable, a creative and romantic partnership that symbolized success itself. But in 2008, everything collapsed. Shania discovered that Mutt had been having an affair, not with a stranger, but with her best friend and personal assistant, Miranda Lambert. The betrayal was devastating, leaving her isolated and broken. "I thought I'd never sing again," she later confessed. "It felt like I'd lost my voice, my faith, and my family all at once." In a twist that felt like poetic justice, Shania found healing in an unexpected place. Frédéric Thiebaud, the ex-husband of the very woman who had destroyed her marriage. Their shared pain brought them together, and slowly, love re-entered her life. The two married in 2011, proving that even from devastation, something beautiful could emerge. Shania's return to music mirrored her personal rebirth. Her album Now, 2017, wasn't just a comeback. It was a declaration of survival. The lyrics carried emotional bruises and quiet defiance, reflecting a woman who had faced betrayal, illness, and self-doubt, but refused to stay broken. She no longer sang from the perspective of a girl in love. She sang as a woman who had seen love's darkest corners and still believed in its power. Today, Shania Twain stands as one of the most inspiring figures in country music. Her story isn't about scandal. It's about resilience. She lost everything, yet found the courage to rebuild, to love again, and to sing again. In the end, the woman who once asked, "Whose bed have your boots been under?" answered her own question and walked away stronger than ever. 8. LeAnn Rimes, the starlet who fell for forbidden love. When LeAnn Rimes burst onto the country scene at age 13 with her stunning rendition of Blue, she was hailed as a prodigy, the next Patsy Cline, a pure voice untouched by scandal. But as her fame grew, the innocent girl from Mississippi found herself swept into the harsh reality of fame, love, and temptation. Decades later, her name would no longer be associated only with her music, but with one of the most controversial love stories Nashville and Hollywood had ever seen. By the early 2000s, LeAnn was a superstar. She had crossover hits, Grammys, and a reputation for professionalism beyond her years. Married young to dancer Dean Sharramet, she seemed to have a perfect life. But while filming the 2009 Lifetime movie Northern Lights, she met actor Eddie Cibrian, also married at the time, to reality star Brandi Glanville. The chemistry between Rimes and Cibrian was immediate, undeniable, and soon impossible to hide. When news of their affair broke, Nashville and Hollywood alike erupted. The story dominated tabloids, two married stars caught in an on-set romance that destroyed two families. LeAnn's once wholesome image was shattered overnight. Fans called her a homewrecker, radio stations boycotted her music, and social media turned vicious. Yet, through the public shaming, LeAnn refused to hide. "I fell in love, and it wasn't pretty," she later admitted, but it was real. The scandal took a heavy toll on her mental health. She entered rehab in 2012, citing anxiety and depression, confessing that the backlash had nearly broken her spirit. But instead of retreating, she turned her pain into art. Songs like What I Cannot Change and Borrowed gave voice to guilt, longing, and redemption, brutally honest reflections of her choices. In 2011, LeAnn married Eddie Cibrian, turning what began as a scandal into a long-term commitment that few expected to last. Over time, she reclaimed her narrative, focusing on healing, self-acceptance, and forgiveness. I learned that love doesn't always start the right way, she said, but that doesn't mean it's not real. LeAnn Rimes' story is not just about infidelity, it's about identity. A child star who grew up under the microscope, made mistakes in full view of the world, and fought to own them. In the end, she didn't run from her scandal. She faced it, transformed it, and sang through it, proving that even forbidden love can lead to painful but profound truth. 9. Miranda Lambert, the heartbreaker. Nashville couldn't tame. Miranda Lambert never tried to be the good girl of country music. She came out of Texas with a guitar, a fire in her voice, and a refusal to play by anyone's rules. From her earliest hits like Kerosene and Gunpowder and Lead, she built a persona of fierce independence and emotional honesty. But behind that fearless image was a love life that became one of Nashville's most explosive sagas, full of passion, betrayal, and the kind of drama that seemed ripped straight from her lyrics. Miranda's most famous relationship began when she met Blake Shelton in 2005. At the time, Blake was still married to Kynette Williams, and rumors quickly spread that Miranda was the reason that marriage ended. Sparks flew instantly between them, and by 2011, they were country's golden couple, beautiful, talented, and chart-topping. But their marriage was anything but smooth. Both were touring constantly, surrounded by temptation and fame, and the gossip never stopped. Whispers of infidelity followed both of them, though neither ever confirmed the details. When they divorced in 2015, it shocked fans. Not because it happened, but because the cracks had been visible for years. After the breakup, Miranda's reputation began to shift. Nashville tabloids painted her as the heartbreaker, linking her to fellow musicians Anderson East, Evan Felker, and others in rapid succession. Her brief relationship with Felker, the married frontman of Turnpike Troubadours, became a public scandal. The story, a married man leaving his wife for Miranda, seemed to confirm every rumor ever whispered about her. But Lambert, as always, didn't apologize. Instead, she let her music speak. Her 2016 album, The Weight of These Wings, was her rawest work yet, a 2-disc confessional filled with loneliness, defiance, and longing. She sang about mistakes, guilt, and the price of being misunderstood. Critics hailed it as a masterpiece, proof that her chaos had birthed art. "I'm not a saint," she once said, "but I'm honest about my sins." In 2019, Miranda stunned everyone again by quietly marrying Brendan McLaughlin, a New York police officer she'd met just months before. It was sudden, unexpected, and, in true Miranda fashion, unapologetically hers. After years of heartbreak, she seemed to have found peace, even as gossip continued to swirl. Miranda Lambert's love life reads like a country song come to life, messy, emotional, and unfiltered. She never claimed perfection. She claimed truth. In an industry that often demands women be saints or villains, she dared to be human, and that's why her story still captivates Nashville. 10. Carrie Underwood, the angel with hidden scars of love. Carrie Underwood's rise to fame seemed almost scripted by destiny. From winning American Idol in 2005 to becoming one of the most decorated female artists in country music history, she embodied perfection: the golden voice, the flawless image, the devoted wife, and the Christian role model. Yet beneath that radiant public persona lay a quieter struggle, one of heartbreak, self-doubt, and the pressures of maintaining love under the unrelenting gaze of fame. Before marrying NHL star Mike Fisher in 2010, Carrie's romantic life was far from picture perfect. Early in her career, she dated Tony Romo, the Dallas Cowboys quarterback, a relationship that quickly became tabloid fodder. Their split was messy in public, reportedly over trust issues and conflicting schedules, with fans and gossip outlets dissecting every lyric of her breakup songs for hidden clues. Soon after, she was linked to actor Chase Crawford, another relationship that fizzled under the pressures of stardom. These early heartbreaks shaped her guarded nature, teaching her that vulnerability in love could become ammunition for tabloids. When she met Mike Fisher, the connection seemed genuine. Opposites drawn together by faith and stability. For a while, they were country music's picture of perfect love. But fame doesn't protect anyone from human struggle. Over the years, whispers surfaced about tension in their marriage, long separations due to touring and Mike's hockey career, differing lifestyles, and the emotional toll of miscarriages that Carrie later spoke about openly. Her 2018 album, Cry Pretty, became her most personal work, revealing raw wounds and internal battles hidden behind her angelic smile. Still, she fought to protect her marriage, insisting that love required grace and grit. Through her faith, she confronted pain without bitterness. Even when rumors swirled, from alleged jealousies to emotional distance, Carrie handled it all with quiet dignity, turning vulnerability into resilience. Her story is a rare one in Nashville, not of scandal, but of survival in the spotlight. She didn't crumble under gossip. She used her heartbreak to evolve as an artist and woman. Behind the glamour and the glowing perfection, Carrie Underwood remains proof that even angels bleed, and that true love, like her songs, is often strongest when it's honest about the scars. 11. Kacey Musgraves, the dreamer who fell out of love under the spotlight. When Kacey Musgraves emerged on the country scene, she was a breath of fresh air, poetic, rebellious, and unafraid to challenge Nashville's traditions. Her lyrics about independence, identity, and love painted her as both a romantic and a realist. But what fans didn't see behind the glittering success of Golden Hour was a love story that began like a fairy tale and ended in quiet heartbreak. A modern country tragedy written in slow motion. Kacey met singer-songwriter Rustin Kelly in 2016 at a songwriter showcase. She described the encounter as cosmic, saying she felt something shift the moment he sang. Their connection was instant, deep, artistic, and tender. They married in 2017, and for a while, it seemed like a perfect creative union. Her Grammy-winning album Golden Hour was born from that love, overflowing with warmth and optimism. Songs like Butterflies and Love is a Wild Thing made fans believe she had found her forever. But fame and artistry often carry hidden fractures. As Kacey's star rose, the intimacy that had once fueled their love began to fade. Long tours, creative differences, and the loneliness of success quietly eroded the bond they'd built. By 2020, the couple announced their divorce, shocking fans who had viewed them as Nashville's golden pair. In her own words, it just didn't work. There's nothing more to blame than two people growing apart. Her next album, Star-Crossed, was her response. Not angry or bitter, but heartbreakingly self-aware. It chronicled the dissolution of her marriage with cinematic honesty. Songs like Justified and Camera Roll turned private grief into public art, showing the emotional cost of outgrowing someone you still love. Critics called it her divorce album, but it was more than that. It was a spiritual reckoning with change, identity, and loneliness. In interviews, Kacey spoke candidly about learning to find herself again outside of marriage, exploring new relationships, and the fear of being misunderstood. Her honesty divided Nashville's traditional audience, but earned her respect as one of the genre's most authentic voices. Kacey Musgraves' story isn't about scandal or betrayal. It's about evolution. She dared to love deeply, to lose publicly, and to transform pain into poetry. In a world obsessed with fairy tales, Kacey reminded everyone that even the most beautiful love stories can fade, and that sometimes the most powerful kind of love is the one you rediscover within yourself. 12. Miley Cyrus, the rebel who couldn't be tamed by love or Nashville. Born into country royalty as the daughter of Billy Ray Cyrus, Miley seemed destined to follow in her father's footsteps. But from the very beginning, she was different. Too wild, too fearless, too restless for Nashville's conservative traditions. As she evolved from Disney star to pop provocateur, her connection to country roots never disappeared. It just got louder, messier, and more honest. And nowhere was that truer than in her love life. A whirlwind of passion, heartbreak, and reinvention that mirrored her career. Miley's most defining romance began with actor Liam Hemsworth, whom she met while filming The Last Song in 2009. Their love burned hot and cold for nearly a decade. Engagements, breakups, reconciliations, and public fights that tabloids devoured. To fans, they were star-crossed lovers. To Miley, they were two people trying to grow up under a microscope. When they finally married in 2018, it seemed like a redemption arc. But less than a year later, the marriage imploded. The The media painted Miley as the wild one and Liam as the calm victim. But behind the headlines was a story of two souls who simply couldn't exist in the same rhythm anymore. Her heartbreak became art. Songs like Slide Away and Wrecking Ball revealed the pain of letting go, not just of a person, but of an identity. I loved him more than anything, she admitted, but I had to love myself more. That moment defined the new Miley, unfiltered, self-aware, and unwilling to apologize for her truth. After Liam, her romantic life continued to make waves. Relationships with Caitlyn Carter, Cody Simpson, and others kept her name in headlines. But unlike earlier years, Miley seemed less interested in approval. She embraced fluidity in love and sexuality, blurring the lines of country conservatism and Hollywood rebellion. Her 2023 hit Flowers, widely seen as a message to her ex, became an anthem of empowerment, echoing the sentiment that every heartbreak can bloom into freedom. Though Miley is often viewed through the lens of pop culture, her roots, musically and emotionally, remain tied to Nashville. Her honesty, her defiance, and her refusal to conform carry the spirit of outlaw country more than most modern artists dare to embody. She took the heartbreaks, the scandals, and the chaos that could have destroyed her and turned them into her rebellion and her rebirth. Miley Cyrus isn't just a country daughter gone rogue. She's the living proof that in love, as in music, the most powerful truth is the one that refuses to stay silent.